Welcome to the Online Marketing Institute. You're now watching a free preview of an OMI e-learning center class.
So let's get started. I'm going to talk about the following 5 tools: CrazyEgg, ClickTail, User Testing, CrossBrowser Testing, and AttentionWizard. So what it is it's a new class of tools that basically simulate or predict where visual attention will go on a page. Here's the AttentionWizard screenshot for the original page. And as you can see, it has several new design mock-up through AttentionWizard, a very, very different. All right, let's talk about another powerful tool. Cross-browser testing is a way for you to basically identify what's going on with key setups of your browser. Now, most of us don't have the luxury of having a usability lab at our disposal with every different monitor size, screen resolution, different type of browser, and so on. My name is Tim Ash, and I'm the CEO of SiteTuners.com, and today my presentation is going to be on the Conversion Ninja Toolbox. This is how most of us see our web marketing. We're making money with our online marketing programs, and we think that we're doing a great job. We should give ourselves a pat on the back as well as a big raise. We think we're rolling out the red carpet for our website visitors. In fact, that's probably not the case. This is really the visitor's view of what you're doing, and it looks a little bit more like scaling these castle walls. And I didn't draw in the people at the top of the wall that are raining down arrows and pots of boiling oil on you, but it's pretty much a miserable experience. Now here's the worst part of all. You built this wall. You actually built it brick by brick by brick. Now it may not have been intentional or even conscious on your part, but nevertheless, this is what it looks like from the visitor's perspective. So the fact that you have some people getting over the top of this wall and getting to your conversion goal is really just a bit of a fluke. Or you can think of it this way. There are probably people that would walk over broken glass to get to what you have. I mean, they really have no other alternatives, or they think that you're the best available. But those folks are few and far between. Many other people would probably be influenced into acting and doing the desired conversion action on your site if they had a better experience with your landing page. Most of us understand the power of testing. I'm not going to talk about that today. Hopefully you already have a landing page optimization and landing page testing program in place. But there are a number of new tools that have just recently in the last couple of years become available. You can think of them as secret ninja weapons that will help you uncover problems with your site or your landing page. And this is really important because your site is fundamentally flawed. As I like to say in some of my other presentations, your baby is ugly. And these ninja weapons will help you cut through the ignorance and really see it for what it is. In other words, the good news is your baby is ugly, because that just means that you have a lot of room for improvement. So these tools, you can think of them as weapons for uncovering flaws with your landing page. So let's get started. I'm going to talk about the following 5 tools: CrazyEgg, ClickTail, User Testing, CrossBrowser Testing, and AttentionWizard. Now, these are all coming at the notion of having problems with your landing page from slightly different angles, but you should probably be using most or all of these as you try to figure out what's wrong with your site, what to fix, and what to test further. The first package I want to talk about is CrazyEgg. And this is a representative of a new class of software programs called in-page web analytics. Now, most of you are familiar with traditional web analytics packages, for example, Google Analytics or Omniture or a number of others. And these look at behavior on your site kind of across pages. You can think of it as, okay, this is the path I followed through the site. I landed on this page, next I went on this page, and so on. You're looking at behavior across pages. Where did I bounce? What's my average time on the page? The new in-page web analytics packages take this to a much more granular level. They're actually looking at what happens within a single page and all of the interactions with it. So CrazyEgg is a great example. It's specifically designed to be easy to use, and it has a number of features that are useful for conversion, such as mouse heat maps, click confetti, link click overlays, and I'll talk about each of these in turn. But the important thing here is that there are a couple of key conversion applications that you can immediately put to use. One is clicking on not clickable images. Now think about it. How many times have you been on a site and you're not even sure if something is clickable and you've clicked on it? Well, what is that really? Besides an example of bad design, well, it's a waste of your time, and it's potentially a lost opportunity. It also builds up frustration on your part. Another thing that CrazyEgg allows you to see are behavior changes based on the screen size and the traffic sources coming to your site. I'll show you a couple of these in action. This is an example of a mouse movement heat map. Now, it turns out that a small percentage of people will actually use their mouse as a pointer as they're navigating a page. So most of us leave the mouse alone. We use it occasionally to scroll or to click something, and the rest of the time we're not even touching it. It's sitting on our desktop. But some people actually move around like a cursor to point to stuff. And so if you get enough people coming to your site, over time you'll be able to, in effect, get this kind of heat map produced of the average behavior of all of your visitors. And it's very helpful because it shows you where their kind of conscious attention is being focused. So let's take a look at a picture here called Click Confetti. And one of the nice things about CrazyEgg is that it allows you to filter information based on a number of different browser parameters or parameters of the browser environment. So in this case, we're filtering by window size. As you can see in the left popover window, we've selected those people that have a window size currently open in their browser of 1024 wide or slightly larger. And the pattern on the page is pretty clear. They're using the top navigation. All of these little confetti dots represent individual clicks on the page. So you can see that's being used. The big orange button is being clicked. But let's take a look, more interestingly, at what's happening in this lower right-hand portion of the page. One thing you notice is that there are several clicks in the search box itself, but nobody's clicking on the search button. And down here in the category section, which is another way to navigate the page, there are a few clicks. Now, let's see what happens when we change our window size. Now we're looking at a different window size, and there are a lot more people in this sample, so the dot pattern is a lot more dense, but the pattern itself has changed. As you can see, we're still getting activation near the top of the page on that main navigation. We're also still getting lots of clicks on that orange button. But look at what's happening in this lower right-hand portion. We're still getting clicks on the search box, but now we're getting clicks on the search button. That means people are actually starting to use that search. And the density of the browse by category clicks down here is also a lot higher. And what this is telling us that the page is now being used in a very, very different way. Now, what's accounting for this change? Well, it's very simple. Now we're filtering by a larger monitor size. We're looking at people that have 1150 pixels to 1280 pixels. And this is important because it shows us that usage patterns are going to change based on the browser window size and the size of the monitor, basically, that people have on their desktop. And you can see what happens when you change that. So it's not hard information, but it's just a qualitative hint that something has really changed. And see, if you were on that smaller window size and you wanted people still to use that search functionality or that browse by category down below, you'd most likely want to test designs that move that up the page so it's above the fold, as they say in the newspaper business, or clearly visible without scrolling. CrazyEgg is very inexpensive, as are all of the packages that I'm going to talk about. The basic one, I believe, is only $9 a month, and even the Pro one is fairly inexpensive at $100 a month. Now, the one thing that to realize about all of these in-page web analytics packages is that you don't have to, it's not web analytics, you don't have to pay for every page view that you have. You don't have to count everybody. It doesn't have to be a belt and suspenders situation where you absolutely count everyone coming to your page. Remember, the point of these packages is to give you qualitative hints as to what's going on with your site. So as long as you have enough people, you can form these visual pictures of where they click or their mouse movements. And so even a standard package, for example, that's 25,000 people a month, and that's probably enough for you to get a clear picture of what's going on your site. Let's move on to ClickTail. This is another package that you could say broadly is in this in-page web analytics business, but it goes beyond that. It also includes user monitoring. So, for example, what you can do is you can actually record people's interactions with your site. what they're typing on the screen, where they're moving the mouse. All of that is recorded, and those sessions can be saved and archived for up to 2 months. It can also have click heat maps and has a lot of other advanced analytics regarding links and filling in of forms, and I'll give a couple of examples here in a minute. But there are a lot of different conversion applications with ClickTail. One of them is, how far do people scroll down your page? Most of us don't have pages that will all fit above the fold. So do they ever get to the bottom of the page? What form fields are people leaving blank? Right now, all we know is kind of this binary measure. Do people complete the form and submit it or not? Wouldn't it be nice to know within the form which fields are being left blank? Which ones cause the most delay and confusion? Which links are being hovered over but not actually ever clicked? This is all very, very powerful and useful information. So let me show you some examples. Here's a conversion funnel. Now, most of you, if you have web analytics in place, are probably very familiar with this. But again, the traditional web analytics conversion funnel measures information across pages, across several steps in a process. For example, a checkout, how many went to the cart, how many went to the billing page, how many went to the shipping page, how many placed the order, and so on. This report actually talks about what happens within a single page. So the top of the funnel represents the number of visitors who landed on this page. The next step represents the number of people that interacted with the form. The next shows how many people tried to submit the form. And then finally, at the bottom, how many people successfully submitted this form. So this gives you very, very granular information about what works and what doesn't on your page. Here's another example of a time report. Let's say you had a form and it had several form fields. In this case, you can see the yellow bars represent kind of the average time delay, or the shortest to longest time delay it took for somebody to fill in a particular form field. Well, as you can see, most of these are pretty short. But what you won't have is any kind of measure, again, if you're looking at traditional web analytics, of what's working and what's not. Okay, so here you can see that form field number 7 is actually the one that produces the longest delay in filling out the form. Now, what does that tell us? Well, one tells us one of two things. Either they couldn't fill it out, or they were confused about filling it out, or they didn't want to fill it out. So, for example, they couldn't fill it out because they didn't have the information required. If I'm at work and I'm booking an international travel reservation and it all of a sudden asks me for my passport number, well, chances are I don't have that with me, and I may have to go home to do it. Or it just might be confusing. This might give you a clue that the label that you're using on the form field is itself confusing, or some other factor is at play here. And finally, you may not want to fill it out. For example, if you're being asked for very personal information or financial information, you may hesitate a long time. Giving out your social security number in many cases would produce this kind of anxiety. But regardless of the cause, whether it's intentional or unintentional, knowing which form field takes the longest to fill out is actually very useful in figuring out how to fix your landing page conversion paths. Another important consideration is the blank field report. Imagine, if you will, knowing what percentage of people actually leave a particular field blank. Again, this will give you a clue as to how important or how confusing or how necessary a field is. If you don't truly need it and it's causing a lot of people to leave it blank, then you can do something about it. Or you can reorder your form fields. For example, seeing that form field in a different context, or seeing it later in the presentation or the process that you have, might change the percentage of people that leave it blank. So again, it gives you qualitative ideas for testing. Now, by the way, not all of this pricing is up to date. I don't vouch for this. Please visit these websites and check it out. But again, ClickTail is probably the most full-featured package that you'll buy. And the bronze, well, there's a free version you're welcome to try. And the bronze version starts at $99 a month. So again, very inexpensive and going up to higher prices for enterprise. Again, terrific capabilities here. You're not only able to record user sessions, you can also inject business rules and find out what's going on based on behavior of people. For example, I'm in an e-commerce catalog, and I only want to see the sessions of people that didn't finish the checkout, but actually were first-time visitors to my site, because seeing their interactions gives me clues as to what's broken from a usability perspective. Or just the opposite, I might want to see my big spenders and how come they didn't finish the checkout process even though they're returning to the site and have completed the process before. Maybe I changed something on my site. Maybe some small tweaks to the wording or the flow are in place now, and all of a sudden they're confused. So this is perfect information if you really want to dig deep. All right, let's talk about usertesting.com. This is another fascinating company. Steve Krug, K-R-U-G. Steve Krug wrote several excellent books. One of them is called Don't Make Me Think. It's a great primer on website usability. I highly recommend it. And one of the things that he talks about and is a big fan of is informal user testing. You don't need to have a usability lab or a one-way mirrored glass, or to even just have these very advanced protocols and ways to control the test and structure them. But basically just sitting down uninformed visitors in front of your website or your landing page and asking them to talk out loud while completing a simple task is often enough to get a lot of great information. So what user testing allows you to do is to quickly set up an online test. You can specify what task you want people to perform on your site. And then user testing finds pre-screened subjects that have been taught to speak out loud, and then records the narration, again, of their interactions with your site, but it adds the talk track. So this is not just passively watching like you would with ClickTail somebody's interactions with your site. You're actually asking them to speak out loud and recording that. So you get a transcript of that video and audio of that session, and typically you start getting results back within an hour or two, and usually you get most of them back within a day or two. And so some of the conversion applications are pretty powerful. One thing you can see is the actual problems that uninterested visitors have. And when I say uninterested, the distinction is important. Most of us are too close to the forest to see the trees. Sorry, too close to the trees to see the forest. We care too much. We've been on this site too many times. We know our way around the landing page or the website. And it's better to have first-time, fresh visitors that don't know how to navigate it, because they'll come up with a whole different set of problems with the site than you can. Also, one nice thing you can do is to see what works and doesn't work about your competitor sites. There's nothing that says you can't say, go to my competitor site and fill in their registration form or get an online quote or whatever your conversion action is, and see how people struggle or what they have an easier time with than they do on your site. And again, this will give you really out-of-the-box thinking. I mean, the rough rule of thumb is if you run 5 or 6 people through one of these usability tests, you'll probably uncover 80% of the usability issues with your site. Here's the punchline. Again, all of these tools are very inexpensive, but at $29 per recorded session, this is just a fantastic value. Again, I would recommend that you get a 5-pack or so of people. That way you get a diversity of opinions, and you'd be surprised at what you find out. All right, let's talk about another powerful tool. CrossBrowser Testing is a way for you to basically identify what's going on with key setups of your browser. Now, most of us don't have the luxury of having a usability lab at our disposal with every different monitor size, screen resolution, different type of browser, and so on. So what CrossBrowser Testing allows you to do is essentially rent a computer and either take still screenshots off of it or actually have interactive sessions going on so you can test your designs. I know that most of us probably don't want to get that phone call if we're a webmaster responsible for a landing page. It says, your site's broken. I can't even complete your process. Or, boy, that looks really weird. Your picture shifted over. Or, I'm on Internet Explorer 6 and this doesn't look like it's backward compatible with that, even though a lot of people still have it. So instead of finding out about these problems later on, you can find out about them in advance. And the beauty is you can fire up a machine in any configuration you want and simply pay by the minute to use it. So some terrific conversion applications are to identify usability issues with different configurations and to find broken or at least suboptimal configurations. And again, you can foresee these. You know what types of browsers and operating systems people are using when coming to your site. And often, if you're talking about different browser resolutions or monitor sizes, it helps you find distorted relationships. Let me show you an example. This is a screenshot I took a while ago for my book, Landing Page Optimization, on Amazon's homepage. And as you can see, there's a couple of areas here that I've highlighted. There's a paragraph of text that talks about the BlackBerry Pearl, and it looks like a pretty normal paragraph of text. And then at the bottom of the screen it says, did you know that Amazon.com sells boxing equipment? And it shows 3 examples of boxing-related products that they carry. Now this is great, and it looks normal. It looks normal on a 1024 screen, which is what this screenshot was taken off of. Roughly that screen resolution, and look at the same screen on my 24-inch monitor. This is the picture you get. And I've highlighted the same areas, but now look what's going on. That originally completely readable paragraph that you had on the Pearl near the top has become 2 very, very long lines of text. And even though technically it's still the same, it basically becomes unusable. People can't read lines of text that are that long and then easily find the beginning of the next line. You should always chop your text down, and if it doesn't have an actual carriage return or line break, into 45 or to 60 character lines, even if the screen allows for a wider width. So that's a usability issue you uncovered. Another one is down below. Now, when it said, did you know Amazon sells boxing equipment, I would expect those 3 shots, those product shots, to be grouped still together below that headline. But they're not. They've used the available width and they've stretched it. And what it's done is create these islands of blank space in between each product. And that very last jump rope on the right doesn't look like it's visually related to that headline anymore. It's just kind of floating out there on its own. So again, it's a perfect example of, for example, being able to left justify all of those pictures and grouping them under the headline. You'd capture that kind of insight by looking at this screenshot. Or you could, and more intelligently, choose to insert more boxing-related equipment into those blank spaces. You know how wide my screen is. Show me 6 of them instead of 3. In any case, it shows you how silly and goofy your page looks when these unexpected distortions show up based on how you've designed your page and whether it's stretched. Here's an example of the different operating systems and configurations that you can choose from, and you can get these on their site. This is probably not the most current list, but it's everything from Mac OS X, Linux running Ubuntu, back to Windows 98, XP, and so on. Basically, the latest configuration with different browsers preloaded with Adobe Flash or Acrobat or Java or QuickTime, whatever your configuration is, you can design your page and test it in this environment. And again, the prices are very reasonable. I think you'd be hard-pressed to spend 10 hours a month of doing cross-browser testing related activities. So if you buy the professional package, that's $50. I'm sure that all of us could forego the occasional latte at Starbucks and cough up the extra $50 we need to get these powerful tools. All right, I want to come to the last tool I'm going to be talking about today, and that is AttentionWizard. And in the name of full disclosure, I must tell you that AttentionWizard is actually a product of my company, of SiteTuners.com, but because it's a unique and very powerful tool, and it's available in a free light version, I feel that I need to talk about it, and I think you'll see its power very shortly. So what it is it's a new class of tools that basically simulate or predict where visual attention will go on a page. Now, we've already talked about mouse tracking. The gold standard, of course, for understanding what people are looking at on the page is actual eye tracking. And eye tracking is becoming somewhat more reasonable, but basically it requires you to have specialized hardware to sit somebody in front of a camera, to have a camera track their eyeball movements, and then figure out where they're looking on the screen. And if you have the money to do that, and the economic importance of your landing page or your website is high enough, you should do that. It's kind of the gold standard. It's going to tell you what your test subjects, which is usually several people, are doing on your site. But it is very time consuming and it's expensive. So using something like in-page web analytics, whether it's from CrazyEgg or ClickTail, and using mouse tracking is kind of the poor man's substitute for that, if you will. And ClickTail claims about 85% correlation with real eye tracking. AttentionWizard takes yet another approach. This is actually not running live subjects through anything. It's not recording their eye movements. It's not recording their mouse movements. It's predicting where they're going to look. And this is based on decades of visual attention research and what we know about the brain and how the visual system and attention and work. So basically what you can do is you can upload a screenshot of a live page or even just a mock-up of a design you're thinking of that's not even live on the web and instantly get what we call an attention heat map of the page. And the conversion applications are very powerful. Basically, it helps you identify visual elements that distract from your conversion goal. It also helps you fine-tune the visual presentation and to make sure that the emphasis of the elements on the page is just right and not overdone and not underdone. And basically, because it can be used on a mock-up of a design before you even go live, it allows you to improve your landing page design before you even go live with it, before you start spending money running traffic to that page, so you can make the most money right out of the gate. Let me show you a quick example. Now this is a big e-tailer, 1-800-Flowers. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. This is a screenshot of the product detail page on their site taken a couple of years ago. Again, just to kind of emphasize the importance of a product detail page, in an e-commerce catalog, everybody has to pass through a product detail page in order to check out. So this is definitely a money page in the critical path. And as you can see, there are a lot of visual distractions here. There's a banner at the top, there's a big green rose category header, there's a lot of bright purple color blocks. And what they really want you to do on this page is to click the very light violet select delivery date button near the bottom of the page. And this is not evident in all of the visual clutter that you see here. So one of the things that we did is we did a design study and came up with a mock-up of a redesigned page that would still have the same content on the page, but would make the call to action much clearer. And this is an example of the redesigned page that we came up with. Now hopefully it's very clear what the call to action is here. It's to click the big green button that says View Delivery Dates. And the other subject of your attention should be the flower vase itself, which makes sense. In a catalog, that's called the hero shot. That's the actual product image. So you want attention going to that as well. Now, when we ran these two pages through AttentionWizard, they very much confirmed what we knew. Here's the AttentionWizard screenshot for the original page. And as you can see, it has several hot spots on the page. And the biggest one is the flower vase. And that's great because, again, that's the product image, and we want attention on that. It's a very visual product. It's beautiful, and we want people looking at it. Unfortunately, all of the other hotspots on the page are going to extraneous images. They're going to the big rose category graphic, to the picture of flowers in the header, to a picture of a florist holding a bouquet, and another small picture of roses. And none of the initial attention, this is the attention during the first few seconds of looking at the page, are focused on this Select Delivery Date button. Now when we new design Mockup through AttentionWizard, a very, very different pattern emerged. As you can see here, there's a lot of attention on the enlarged vase of flowers itself, showing off the beauty of the product. And the only other hotspot on the page is on the redesigned, much larger and clearer View Delivery Dates button. So what you have here is a visual proof, if you will, that there are no attention leaks on the page. Even though that all the information's there, the navigation and everything else, and the product description, the attention isn't leaking to those parts of the page. It's good attention. It's going to the product shot and the call to action. And if implemented, I'm confident that this page would result in a 7 or 8-figure profit impact on 1-800-Flowers. Let me show you another example. This is a professionally designed landing page for a company called Credo Mobile. They're a socially conscious cell phone company out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And again, here you would think that the attention or the call to action is pretty clear. It's a big fat green button in the middle of the page that says get this offer. Here's the handset, here's the deal, get this offer. Now they're a socially conscious company. One of the things that they tried to do is to talk about what good they're doing for the world. So this paragraph of text in the lower right light gray area talks about their achievements in that area and the causes that they support. So what they want to do is kind of have their street credibility, if you will, with their target audience of progressive causes that they give money to. And also, of course, it's a direct response page, and what you want is for as many people as possible to take the offer. So we took them through one of our online express reviews. This is where via a GoToMeeting, an online meeting, we will do a 45-minute deep dive into the page and everything wrong with it. We record the whole thing. We gave them a hard-hitting review. And as a result, the page was redesigned along the lines of our express recommendations. And this was the page that we came up with, or that they finally came up with. As you can see, it's a very different looking page, and you probably think that, well, it's not that different. It's just kind of more boring and plain. Same elements are on the page, the phone, a button. We've added a little bit in the way of, again, the companies and charities that they donate money to, like Greenpeace, Planned Parenthood, and Doctors Without Borders, well-known brands. We want some attention going there. But basically, it doesn't look like it's any kind of big deal. It doesn't look that different, in other words, from the previous page. They're both professionally designed pages, and it looks like they both have a clear call to action. Well, let's take what AttentionWizard saw. Here's the original page. As you can see, the attention and the eye gaze path, the thin yellow lines, goes all over the page, and there are several hotspots. The biggest ones, unfortunately, here near the left of the page are visual artifacts of the fact that bright contrasting colors are used. There are corners formed by the dark gray surrounding those areas, and those hotspots are actually in blank space. There's no information there. There's some on the phone, and that's okay, but there's very little actually. There's a lot on the headline, but there's very little on the call to action green button itself. It's getting lost amid all of that clutter. Let's take a look at what AttentionWizard saw when we ran the mock-up of the new page through it. Well, I think you'll agree that a very different pattern emerges here. The phone and the offer are getting a lot of activation. The next biggest hotspot is clearly on the call to action button. And finally, on the right of the page, we're getting a little bit of attention on the logos, the kind of the social proof or consensus or authority that's conferred by being associated with those well-known charities and giving them money. So you think, okay, what's the big deal? It seems like it's a bit of a more tightly focused page. It actually is a very, very big deal. When they did a head-to-head test and did a drop to their targeted email list, they actually saw 84% lift with the new redesigned version. And again, just by looking at the pattern of attention on the two landing page designs before even dropping it to the mail list, you could have understood that one was clearly better than the other. Or by looking at the original page, you would have understood that there was a lot of visual clutter and the call to action was getting lost. So again, on the AttentionWizard pricing, as I mentioned, it's free. Please come to AttentionWizard, create your account, and you'll be able to pull one free light heat map every day. And if you're interested in the Pro or Pro on Watermark versions, they're available very inexpensively on a per use basis. It depends on how much you prepay, how many you buy ahead of time. So here's your quick action plan, just to sum up. If you're not already doing this, you should have Web Analytics installed on your site. but there's no reason to also install CrazyEgg and ClickTail on your critical landing pages. After you've done that, you should look at those pages with popular browsers and operating systems, which you can tell from your web analytics. In other words, you know what browser resolutions people are using, which operating systems they're using, which browsers they're using. So check it out. Check out your page using CrossBrowser Testing with those popular combinations and see what other people are seeing. I think you'll be surprised at how strange your page looks in some of those setups. And then, to get additional ideas for what's wrong, have 5 people complete your desired conversion task or process using usertesting.com. You'll get a whole new set of insights about people's psychology, their thought process, and what's tripping them up. And then finally, redesign your page and double check it with AttentionWizard before you go live. Make sure that it's really the best that it can be before you put it into action. Here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me directly.